In the fall of 2014, I gave a TED Talk titled Why I Teach My Children to Fail. And instantly, I had people asking me to come speak to their company or speak to their organization or their team. And it was failure. That was the topic that just really resonated with people. And when I launched the podcast last year, I had intended on failure being a part of my message, but I come to realize that failure is my message. We all experience it, and it hurts. And it leads to just a lot of people lowering their goals, settling for less, or letting go of their dreams. And my mission is to help you normalize failure and use it to boost you to greater levels of success like it has for so many greats in the past. You know, the Michael Jordans, the Richard Bransons, the Steve Jobs of the world. You, my audience, have told me that you enjoy learning not only the stories and habits of successful people, but also how they were able to fail but still find success, and to help you realize that failure is just a necessary step on your path to success. Because of this, I am changing the name of the podcast. I'm changing it from Wrestling with Success to Success Through Failure. The name change is going to just really help more clearly define to those who come across the show that my core message is failure. It's about failure. And it's also going to help alleviate any confusion that the show is about wrestling or solely for wrestlers. While in many ways, I define my identity as a wrestler, this show is just far bigger than that. The guests will remain primarily former athletes because I believe that the athlete's experience provides a powerful context for understanding the value of failure. The format of the show really is not going to be all that changed either. So it'll be pretty much a similar format as all the other shows. I hope you like the evolution of the show. I hope you'll share it with other people in your social circles and on social media, et cetera, and just even in person and emailing episodes to people so that you and I, can help others understand the value of failure and turn their eyes upward after failure so we can use it as a stepping stone on our paths to success. Thanks for listening, and thanks for sharing.
Welcome to the Success Through Failure podcast, the show that reveals failure as your path to success. You'll listen to intriguing interviews with some of the most successful people on the planet and learn how their failures became a launchpad for success and how yours can too. Here's your host, former Division I All-American wrestler, former Division I head coach, speaker, and personal coach, Jim Harshaw.
Welcome to another episode of Success Through Failure. Today, I bring you Antonio Centeno. Antonio is a father, husband, and former U.S. Marine who became a custom clothier in 2007. His mission is to provide men the tools they need to educate themselves and build the wardrobe that best complements their individual style. Antonio has spent thousands of hours helping thousands of men improve their appearance, men who want to achieve greatness and realize that they need a polished appearance, which radiates their strength and their confidence. If you don't have time to listen to this entire episode, or if you hear something that you like but you don't have time to write it down, be sure to grab your free copy of the action plan from this episode and all the other episodes at jimharshawjr.com/action. Antonio, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jim. Happy to be here.
Yeah, man. I've been checking out your stuff for a while, and I actually first came across your content on YouTube a couple years ago. I was looking for some kind of style tip, and I don't remember what it was. Actually, no, I do remember what it was. And this sounds silly, but I'm going to say it anyway. So I was sitting at work, and I was hot. My office was just hot, and I'm like, you know what? I need to roll up my sleeves. I was uncomfortable. I'm like, I wonder if there's a professional right way to roll up your sleeves on your business shirt. And so I'm like, I might as well just Google it. Mother Google knows everything. So I Googled it, and boom, up pops Antonio, and he taught me how to do it. So I appreciate that. And then it was like 6 months later, there was something else I was looking up. I think, you know what? It was how to wear a pocket square. And so you helped me out twice already. And so I'm like, man, and I kind of did a little bit of background on you and checked out your website and different things. And I figured, man, I got to have this guy on my show. So, Antonio, tell us about your business. Tell us what you do.
Yeah, you know how most men don't know how to dress properly. If you look out there, the style is horrendous. And I think the big issue is a lot of men just don't care. They don't think it matters. And I come in and I solve that problem. First off, I focus on the emotion, making sure that guys understand that there is a reason you need to pay attention to your appearance. So I focus on the science of style, and I focus on, I show that it's masculine. I bring in military history. I bring in examples of how you can actually make more money when you pay attention to the way you dress. And then from that, I then follow through and I give you via video, infographics, the information you can use to be able to easily apply this to your life.
Yeah, I've definitely gotten much of that from what I've read on your website. And, I guess I was kind of one of those guys who I really didn't care a whole lot about style growing up. I just wasn't sort of something I focused on, blue collar home.
Jim, did you wrestle?
I did. So I wrestled at University of Virginia. Yep.
Did you wrestle in a uniform?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know where you're going with this. Yeah.
You didn't wrestle.
You want to look
tutu,
good,
did
right?
You?
You want to look good. Yeah, you want to have the right uniform on, the functional one.
What would happen if you went out there in a ballerina's tutu for one of your wrestling matches?
Boy, I don't know. I'd probably have to wrestle a little bit harder.
Wrestle a little bit harder. I think you'd have a lot of guys give you a bit of a smirk. I mean, I went to Cornell College in Mount Vernon, Iowa, so I'm familiar with the wrestling community there in Iowa City.
You ran cross country there, didn't you?
I did. I was a cross country runner, and I can tell you there's always a uniform that we would wear in athletics. And that uniform prepares you. It's there to help you achieve your best. In fact, there are certain uniforms, I believe in swimming, you're not allowed to wear anymore because they were too aerodynamic. But the point is a uniform is there because it has a functional purpose. A lot of guys don't understand, though, it also has something that affects your mental attitude. And if let's look baseball players. They've always got like a lucky hat or maybe a lucky pair of shorts or something that they wear, and they never deviate from this. A lucky glove. If they don't have their lucky bat, they are just going to strike out. The thing is what we wear has also a very deep psychological effect. And if you don't have a uniform that you wear every time you're going to go pitch a business, that why they should do business with you, or if you're going to go and ask a banker for a loan so that you can get your nonprofit up off the ground and you haven't practiced wearing what you're going to wear, you're just inviting, I think, a bit of disaster into your – I just want people to be mentally prepared, and that's what I focus in on. And I try to show people that they have cared about how they appear in the past and to understand that it's all related. And I talked to a lot of military guys because we wore uniforms in the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps, we loved our uniforms. Our dress blues, we believe we look the best. And a lot of these guys get out and they stop caring about it. But they're like, oh, I'm a mechanic. I don't need to wear it, to look sharp. Well, you do, because the difference between a mechanic that is getting paid $100,000 a year and one that's getting paid $24,000 a year is usually the guy that looks, that the $100,000 guy is working on really high-end cars, and I expect zero mistakes from this guy. But a guy that comes in all dirty, sloppy, there's a reason why he's working on cars and most of them are coming back with issues versus the guy that's getting paid that six figures. He's working on high-end jet engines where one mistake could lead to a disaster, and his employers have to have 100% confidence in him.
Yeah, and the whole psychology behind it, which I love, what you talk about, it's so important because when you dress nicer, when you have that confidence of when you dress well, you tend to act the part too, right? You have more confidence, and it's what came first, the chicken or the egg. It's a little bit of a cause and effect. It's like it's both. If you dress nicer, you get better results. When you get better results, you want to dress nicer, right? So, go reflect. Go ahead.
That research is called Enclothed Cognition. Northwestern University is one of the leading, advocates. I mean, they put out a lot of research on this, but one of the classic studies is they took two sets of people. One of them, they said, you're wearing a doctor's jacket. The other one, they said, oh, it's just a painter's smock. And they gave them tests to take. The men and the women that wore these doctor jackets performed statistically higher, despite there being, these were random samples. They just, whenever they put on this doctor's jacket, they felt that they needed to better represent, that they were more attentive. They paid closer attention to the questions. They just performed better. So you better believe, that this stuff is real. I mean, there's just all these bodies of research that it's out there. And, the goal – I don't really care about clothing. What I care about is how a man uses it. to be able to get what he wants out of life.
You know, you can go back to the sports analogy that you talked about, because mostly former athletes listen to this show, or a lot of former athletes. And when you're an athlete, you wanted to look good, right? You want the swag, you want the gear, you want the cool new Nike or Under Armour gear that just came out. You want that, right? Because you look good, you feel confident. You know, I always hated wearing the old nasty warm-ups. You know, you always wanted the nice new ones, and why? Because you feel better. You felt better. You felt more confident, and we forget about that. You know, you're actually preaching that message and bringing it out to the real world. Because a lot of times we just forget about it. Just like I talk a lot on my show about, you know, when we're athletes, we have coaches and we have mentors and we have teammates holding us accountable, and we're holding them accountable, and we get out into we're able to achieve more because of that. And whether you achieve your goals as an athlete or not, most 99% haven't or didn't, but you're able to achieve more just because you have those things in your life. And most of us, just get out into the real world and we forget about all those things. So it's so important to have mentors and coaches and mastermind groups in your life, and you'll accomplish more there too. And it's pretty cool how you bring this message to making it relevant for the real world. So, Antonio, okay, you take a guy like me. I never cared till about a few years ago. I started really caring about my clothing, and really started buying some nice stuff and dressing nicer and feeling more confident because of that. What do you tell the guy who's listening who's where I was maybe 5 or 6 years ago, who doesn't wear a sports coat, isn't comfortable wearing that kind of thing, and what do you tell them? Where do you start? I mean, it's like a lot of times I didn't really even know. I didn't grow up in a home where my dad ever wore a sports coat or anything like that. So I didn't have, I didn't really know where to start. Where does the guy start?
Well, I talked about the emotional aspect, and that is key. You've got to have your why. Simon Sinek has talked about this a bit. Go ahead and they can do a Google search on that guy. But you've got to zero in, like, why do you want to improve your style? And be honest with yourself. It may be you want to make twice as much money, and it's not about money. You simply want the freedom that having a salary to be able to go from $48,000 a year to almost $100,000 a year. You want that freedom because that's going to allow you to spend more time with your family, be able to buy that house you've always wanted. So understand that's your driver. Have that emotional driver, because it's not always going to be easy to make the transition. But the three things I always tell a guy to start off with, and this is my style pyramid, pretty simple, is you want to start off with the function. You want to start off with the fit, and you want to start off with the fabric. So I'm going to change that around just a bit. Let's start with the fit of your clothing. Everything you wear needs to fit you, no exception, whether it be athletic clothing, what happens if you wear the wrong size uniform? My son had this happen the other day. He got his new football uniform, and right after the first practice, he's like, "Hey, Dad, I got to go exchange my jersey. It was too big." Why did this matter to an 11-year-old? What does fit have to do with anything in a uniform when you're out performing in athletics?
Function. It's got to do the
Yeah,
job. You don't want it to have it baggy and someone can tackle you, et cetera.
Exactly. You want something that fits closer to the body. Also, freedom of movement. I learned this when I was climbing radio communication towers in Iowa during the winter. Because if you layer – Iowa gets cold, and we're up at like 1,000 feet on some of these towers, and that's how I paid my way through college. But I realized I had to climb up that tower. And if I didn't have a high armhole – and there's a reason why Carhartt is able to charge what they do versus some of the lower – cost ones that you can buy. Oftentimes Carhartt has like just a better cut. It's better material. They're going to stand up to the test of time. But I realized, the fit was imperative. And then that leads me, because it gave me more freedom of movement, made it easier to get around on the tower, actually made it less dangerous for me. And then the function aspect, which leads right into it. All of a sudden, you realize that it needs to be able to do the job. A lot of people say, "Oh, I'm a t-shirt and jeans kind of guy, and that's what I wear for my plumbing business." Well, is that actually the right functional clothing that you need for your plumbing business? Because last time I checked, you're around some pretty hot pipes, and you're going to burn your forearm if you put your hand in there, versus if you had a nice, well-fitted cotton work shirt. That's going to do a much better job for protecting your neck, protecting your arms from those hot pipes. And the difference between a first degree and a second degree burn is you're going to have to take time off of work with the other one, and little things like that. All of a sudden, okay, so we focused on fit.
Not to mention the customer, you take that to the next level. Not to mention the way you look in front of the customer. You look more professional. You act more professional. And,
exactly.
You can charge a higher rate. I mean, it's just the way it works. I used to own a window cleaning company, and I had all my guys dressed well. I mean, we were the only window cleaning company in town that we were uniformed and we actually looked good. We showed up looking good, and we charged the highest rate in town too.
Yeah, and you can do that because let's say there's a mom. She's at home. She's got her 2 young kids. They're crying. You're 30 minutes early. You're thinking, hey, I can get this job done. She looks out at people, and she sees a guy who's not wearing a uniform, who looks raggedy. I mean, it looks like he almost came off the streets. Is she going to open that door? Because, hey, I was expecting the cleaner, but he's supposed not, the window cleaner, but he's not going to be here for 30 minutes. I don't know who this person is.
Right.
And so you lose that customer because you simply didn't pay attention to the way you present yourself.
Yeah, you lose that trust.
Exactly. And so you go out there. I mean, what is it? Rugby. What is it? The All Blacks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do they do before I'm going to put you on the spot. What do they do before every match?
Yeah, they got their ritual, their dance.
Exactly. I don't remember what it's called, like the hookah or something.
Yeah.
I probably just totally missed it, but they do this dance, and like they had to actually pull back on it because they used to do this like slitting of the throat thing.
Yeah.
But it was pure intimidation.
Sure.
And if you have a team that comes out and they're all raggedy and they look like the Bad News Bears versus a team that comes out and they are like a machine. They come out like soldiers. They are screaming, but as soon as the coach says, they come together in a silent formation and they start moving. I mean, it's like, holy cow, these guys look like they're here for business, and that's what you want to send, with your clothing. So we've talked about fit. We've talked about function. Let's talk about fabric. This is the last in my triad, and this is where you start to upgrade the material. You start to realize there is a difference between a $20 dress shirt and a $200 dress shirt. And the difference often is in the details. And I'm not saying you got to have a $20 or a $200 dress shirt, but I am saying you need to understand that there is a difference in this in the same way that, there's a difference when someone says they're a runner. Well, there's a difference between someone that just goes out jogging once in a while or someone that every single day is out there at 4 a.m. and they're training for a marathon and they're watching everything they eat. Both of them are runners, but they are at very different levels. And when you understand that in clothing, you start to realize that, hey, like when if I'm going to be going and pitching in front of an investment bank, trying to get my sports, I want to start the next, mixed martial arts, company. If you're going to be going and doing that and realizing you're going to be asking for $1 million, you need to look like the man that I could trust with $1 million. And if you don't, if you're dressed like that coach, it's the wrong audience. So,
yeah, amen, man. You're preaching to the choir here, and I wouldn't have said that a couple of years ago, but it makes a lot of sense, and I'm so glad to have you on the show to reinforce this, not only to me but to the listener. I get so much out of these, listening to these, doing these interviews. So, Antonio, what about the guy who says, "I can't afford it"?
That's a very common, and I would say first off, you definitely want to budget for this. That's kind of a boring word. I would say, first out, look at the free resources. There are so many out there. Simply talk to your friends and family. You may have a brother-in-law that has an entire wardrobe. He's getting rid of boxes, and all those boxes, by the way, are probably going to Goodwill, probably going to the Salvation Army. There's nothing wrong with going to a thrift store and you'll find for pennies on the dollar. Amazing pairs of shoes, amazing dress shirts, some of them still in the packages. And what I like about thrift stores is you're not beholden to the latest fashion trends because some of the stuff in there is like 10 years old. But you've got to, if you don't have the money, education is going to be key. I've got like 600, 700 free videos. Watch some of my videos. You will all of a sudden start become a more discerning shopper. Then you go in there and you're able to spot better deals, which are pennies on the dollar. And then from there, you're able to start building up basically you want to have a great looking outfit. Once you've got that great outfit, you can wear it multiple times. Very few people are going to notice. There was like some Australian newsman that he wore the same suit for an entire year. Nobody noticed. It's one of those things that if you've got a great looking outfit, it's not about an individual piece being memorable. It's about people just saying, you look good. I don't know what it is about you, but you just look really good today. And that's what's great about the fit. And again, it's about making it a priority as well, because if you really want something, you're going to go out and get it. And for you to be, a lot of my friends, they've put out these videos, guys that for the young guy out there teaching men's fashion. I think Aaron Marino's maybe put out some stuff for some of the other men out there. But basically for $100, you would be amazed at the outfits that you can put together.
That's cool. For the listener, I will have a link to, was that Aaron Marino you said?
Aaron Marino over at Alpha M, great YouTuber. Guys over at Teaching Men's Fashion, Jose and and his brother Juan, just really great young guys out of Florida. But I mean, there's just money is the biggest and I think the worst excuse, because we all find money to go see the Green Bay Packers. I know I live in Green Bay land, and everyone's always finding the money to make it out there, and that may be important. But be honest with yourself. It's maybe not the money that you don't have. It's just not a priority for you. And then you need to look at yourself in the mirror and say, what are my priorities?
Yeah, it goes back to asking the why, like you said. Start with your why. Why do you want to do this?
Yep.
That's great. So tell me about how you got into this business, because, I know you didn't, just sort of talking to you in the past, you didn't start off thinking like, when you were 5 years old, 10 years old, hey, I'm going to start a men's style business. I mean, how did you get into this business? Can you kind of take us along your path from, I guess, maybe from high school on through to now?
Sure. Well, I'll start off in the Marine Corps. That's where I first had my fitted suit, and I got this done at the Marine shop, and I realized I really liked great service. I liked the look of this uniform and the way it made me feel. When I went out in my Marine Corps dress blues, let's just say I had no problem with the ladies, and I realized that it's like an aphrodisiac. And that was my first, wow, this stuff really works. And then all of a sudden, I forgot about it, I lived in Ukraine for a while with my wife. But before I got married, I looked for a great fitting suit, could not find one in Kiev, Ukraine. I ended up, I ran through this, actually, my wedding pictures. I look back on the suit and I'm just like, oh, that's a horrendous fit. I went to business school at Texas. I started getting exposed to all these ideas and the idea that there was opportunity in underserved markets. So getting back to custom clothing, I worked with a custom clothier, and the guy came, he actually made it for me, and he told me about like his level of education, what he was able to do. And I'm like, I could go into this field and really make a difference because I have this fancy degree. Turns out like I did not know jack. I did not know jack about this stuff, but I went in, I think initially as a mercenary, and I became a missionary. And there's a big difference. Mercenaries go in because they think there's a money opportunity. So initially that's how I got into the custom clothing world. I thought I could just go in and create $1 million business and sell it. Turns out it was a lot more work than I thought. But what I realized when I became a missionary, when I had a big purpose, is I had men writing me because I had created this big knowledge. I took basically all these men's style books. I taught myself, and I rewrote the information and put it on the web in my own words and my own kind of voice. And I did this as a learning exercise. But what I realized when I was getting 100,000 visitors a month to that first website is people were writing me and saying, thank you for teaching me about men's style. And then they would get on the phone with me. I realized I couldn't do this and run my clothier. So I decided to become a trusted source for information. And so now we've got probably 2,000 articles out there. I've got like 600 videos. We've got courses that men can run through if they want to put skin in the game. I've got live events, StyleCon in Atlanta, Georgia, February 3rd and 4th. So things like that have just allowed me to turn this into a living, breathing business. We've got 12 employees now. And I just love the fact that I get paid money now to help men become the best that they can be.
Wow. So you started a custom clothier first, and then you sort of evolved to more what you're doing now. Do you still have the custom clothier?
I don't. I closed it down, and that's it's one of those things like you can start off playing 4 sports, but eventually you get to a point where you realize if you want to be world class, you got to focus in on one. Unless you're Deion Sanders or some of those other dual athletes.
Sure. So I always ask all of my guests, Antonio, about a time they failed. Maybe this is a good segue here, and maybe that's the business, or maybe it's something totally different. But I ask everybody about a time that they failed because failure is something that happens to all of us, and a lot of people, if they don't have the right structure, right self-belief in their life, it results in them lowering their goals or giving up on their dreams or just settling for less. Can you tell us about a time that you failed, and as a result, you felt just that sort of overwhelming self-doubt that comes from failure, and maybe how you worked through that?
Yeah, anyone that has success, you see what's at the Hall of Fame in baseball? You only have to hit, like 350, and you're pretty much going to be guaranteed in there, which means that you're striking out or you're getting out, 650, more than half of the time. The same thing is like no one sees most. I fail every single month. We test something and it doesn't work. But then we have something and it hits a home run and everyone notices and they're like, wow, how'd you come up with this? I'm like, well, you didn't see, I just failed like 7 or 8 out of 10 times.
Right.
But I appreciate that you noticed my victory. But one big failure I had in the Marine Corps is when I was NPQ'd out of the flight program. So I went in, thought I was going to be the next Top Gun, hanging out with all these aviators. I made it through Pensacola's flight training program. Then I go down to Corpus Christi, Texas, and I'm flying a T-34 doing a penetration dive. And basically I blew my sinuses. So my body basically failed me. And I had always had sinus problems. I never really said anything. I was kind of just wanted to see how far I could get. And I had an option. I could go through surgery. They could work. Then I could try to get back into the program, but we're talking a 1-year delay. Or I could simply go to the infantry, and that's where the Marine Corps sends. It seems like all of us that fall out of the flight program. And I decided to just go to the infantry because I realized, and this failure made me make a very hard decision. I realized I did not have the dream to be an aviator. I realized that I was surrounded by guys, and I saw really what it takes. I mean, people that become great naval aviators in the Marine Corps and the Navy and the Air Force, these guys, it's not like they're born that way. The best ones I saw were the ones that I had one guy, he built a friggin' simulator in his basement so that he could practice. Wow. I mean, this is like, it's not like an electronic simulator. He built a physical, like it was wire controlled, and I went down, I mean, he spent weekends preparing for the preparation that prepared you to go. I mean, the guy was literally, that's why he was so far ahead. And I'm like, this guy deserves to be flying a multi-million-dollar jet. Because if I was flying a multi-million-dollar jet, I would have probably killed myself by now. Because I was too lackadaisical. I was at that point pretty much a risk taker. I was the guy cutting lanes in California on my motorcycle going 70 miles an hour. I mean, I really didn't have an appreciation for my life. And it saved my life. So you're looking back on those failures, you realize that they open up other doors and opportunities. I got to then go to a great battalion, 3rd Battalion, 1st Marines. I got to learn what it's like to lead Marines. And it was painful, but that prepared me for everything that now has come since.
The guy in the basement you talked about who built a simulator in his basement, it's like, that's crazy, right? Like, who does that? Who goes to those extreme measures?
The friggin' best.
The best people.
Best.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. And, I've said many times on the show, if you want to be extraordinary, you can't do what everyone else does, right? So he wasn't – if everybody did that, if everybody built a simulator in their basement, then if you want to be extraordinary, you got to go to the next level. You got to do the next craziest thing. So it's –
There is no traffic on the extra mile, and you've got to try a number of things and find what it is that you're willing to go that extra mile. Like you're willing to be the guy. And I found video was my thing. I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get my videos going. Most of them are filmed that early in the morning because I had
those
my
videos
other,
like the ones I found you on YouTube.
Yeah, was because I had another job I had to do. And so if you're using that excuse that, well, I'm already working 50 hours a week, go cry me a river, whatever. If it means that much to you, you're not afraid to work 100 hours a week.
Yeah.
I've got a family. I've got 2 kids. I've got 4. And I've met guys that have 10 and still make it happen. And you're just going to have to be incredibly disciplined with your time. You're going to have to say no to people that want to steal your time. You're going to have to set meetings and keep them at 15 minutes. You're going to have to find ways to make it happen. And when you can do that, I think that's when you can really make it happen.
Yeah, and you can call it a sacrifice or you can call it an investment. I prefer to call it an investment. It's like I look back at my college wrestling career and it's like, was it a sacrifice that I didn't go out on Friday nights and get the party like everybody? Like, no, it was an investment. It's like all the pain and suffering that I went through to get onto the podium at the national championships in front of 15,000 people. It's like, was it a sacrifice or was it no, it was an investment, man. It was like it came back to me. There was a return on that investment. And that's what you got to find. It goes back to, let's go back to the beginning of the interview. It's like, what's your why? Find out your why. Why do you want to do this? What's your vision? And most people don't get off the treadmill of life long enough to actually consider that, right? They're just doing today what they did yesterday, and they're going to do it tomorrow because that's what they did the day before, and for no better reason than that. But it's like when you hit the pause button, step back, evaluate your life, evaluate what you want, where you're at, where you're going, where, if you continue on this trajectory for the next 10 years, where are you going to be in 10 years? You're going to wake up in 10 years and go, this sucks. I wish I'd have gotten on a different path, or are you going to be proud of either where you're at or the effort that you put into getting to where you're at? Because I can tell you, had I not, reflect back on my college wrestling career, had I not become an All-American, had I not won that one key match at the national championships, it wouldn't have changed all the effort that I put in. You know what I mean? I would have still been able to sleep at night knowing I did everything I possibly could to reach that goal. And that's really what it comes down to. Antonio, I want to ask you, I think starting your business actually came out of getting fired. I've heard you talk about this before. You got fired from a job and you decided you wanted to start a business. Is that right?
Yeah, part of it was also I got fired and the economy was really bad. We're talking, this is late 2007, so everything's going down in the stock market or it's about to go. And I just realized that, hey, I'm going to if I'm not going to – I need to start a business now. My wife, we had my son. She had just come to the United States from Ukraine. And I just realized, if I don't make a go of it now, it's risk. I mean, it's hard to explain, but I think that there's never a perfect time to get going on this, to start with this. You always are going to feel behind. It's like the athlete that maybe starts a sport when he's a freshman, or that he's already in his second year of college. Can he still get back into running cross country, or can he get into this sport? Or, he's the 40-year-old, never been an athlete, but he wants to he has a dream of doing an Ironman. Is it too late in his life? No, it's not. And you just got to realize you do have a limited amount of time and that window closes. And yeah, so getting fired was great because I did take that chance, and it's paid off in spades. I mean, it's been let's just say I'm able to pay myself more now monthly than I know many people make in a year, and that's crazy. But the only way I'm able to do that is because I own the business. I'm the lion in my business. I get to keep the lion's share, and it's an amazing place to be. But of course, I also realized I took incredible risk. Or did I? Because now I get my income from 25 different sources. And so you start to realize that there are, it's a double-edged sword. But I can't imagine, like, if you're ready, you need to get started as soon as you can, I think, down this journey.
I talked to a guy yesterday. He's 38, and he's an attorney, and he felt he was too ensconced in his career now to really make a change. I said, okay, let's think about this for a second. When do you feel like you really started being productive in the real world? And he said, like maybe I was age 22. I said, okay, when do you think you're gonna stop being productive in the real world? And he said, probably 70 or 75 years old. I said, okay, so you're 16 years into this 40-plus year career. You're 16 years into it. Do you you're less than halfway there. I mean, do you really feel like it's too late? And he's like, yeah, you got some perspective on it. And he realized, no, I can make a change. It's not too late. There's plenty. He's got, several decades yet to go of being productive, So anyway, it's just a sort of different way to look at it. You got 50 more years to work, and you're 16 years in. So, and the other thing you mentioned is, you got let go from your job in a trying time. Herb Brooks was he got let go. He got cut from the 1960 U.S. Olympic hockey team. Didn't make the team. They go on to beat the Russians and win the gold medal. And you think about the self-doubt that might create, but that was an opportunity for him. That drove him. That was a spark. That failure, being let go, being told you are not good enough, sparked him. And you know where he was in 1980 when the United States beat the Russians in the Miracle on Ice? He was the head coach. He was sitting on the bench. He was the head coach. He was the architect of the greatest Olympic victory, arguably of any sport of all time. And this is the same guy who was told he wasn't good enough to be on the team. So your greatest failure, your moment of deepest doubt can lead to your greatest success. Antonio, what habits do you have that you feel maybe set you apart, have helped you achieve success? My listeners like to get really actionable items out of these interviews. Any habits that you do, anything you do on a regular basis, daily basis, weekly, whatever that might be?
I've become really good at saying no. And I feel that too many people say yes to things and then they regret it afterwards. So I've almost gone to an extreme point, and I think Tim Ferriss has talked about this, let little bad things happen. And really, it's like I want to spend time in email responding to everybody. I want to say yes to every opportunity that comes my way. I want to help out, these people that they've got a business coming up off the ground and they want me to highlight their company. I want to do that. I really do. But I've got a very limited amount of time. And by saying no and making that pretty much my default answer, I found that when I say yes, I can say hell yes. And I'm able to actually give – I'm not spreading myself out as thin as I used to. Sometimes I do fall into it. I say yes, and I shouldn't have, but it happens a lot less. And I'm able to just spend more time with my family. I have a plaque up here. Is this project worth time I could be spending with my family? And I look at that, and it makes it so easy to say no to people. And everyone's just got to put value on their time. And you've got to really say – initially it's going to be, your time is probably less valuable than it will be 20 years from now when you have less of it, and maybe you've moved up in terms of like the VIP status in your industry. But you need to, think about like what you stand for, what it is you want to make sure you've got time for, and then just say no to anything that is, if someone comes to and they did, you did your research on me for an interview and you've got a legitimate show and everything. Sometimes people just come in and they want to just pick my brain. No, I don't have time for that. You would be taking away 30 minutes. I find sometimes those people want to spend an hour on the phone. That's time I need to spend with my son, with my 3 daughters, with my wife, who I don't get to spend enough time with. So I'd say the habit of saying no is really helped transform my life.
I think that's a huge lesson that I learned a few years ago, and I started really implementing it. And a lot of people struggle with it, but it's like I'm in a line of work where I have to look people in the eye and ask them for $1 million. It's a hard thing to do until you learn how to phrase it, until you practice it, right? And it's the same thing with saying no. And one of the best ways that I've learned, for the listener, if you're looking for a tactic on how to say no, people tend to take a no better. If you tell them that if I say yes to this, that means I have to say no to something else. If I say yes to doing this interview, that means I have to say no to my children, an hour spent with them. So, and I actually have about 3 or 4 of these different ways to phrase a no to people that have been really helpful. I actually got it posted on my wall next to my desk, and I'll actually include those for the listener. I'll include those in the action plan. So if you go to jimharshawjr.com/action, I will include those in the action plan with this episode. So a handful of ways to say no. So that's great advice, Antonio. So for the listener, what can you recommend in terms of an action that they can take in the next, let's say, 24 to 48 hours to start moving towards their goals? And this may be something along the lines of business. This may be style, whatever you think is most relevant. An action that the listener can take in the next 24 to 48 hours to start moving towards their goals.
I'm going to tie this into what we just talked about, because on the flip side of me saying no, I respect persistence. And I have people that I say no to, and they go in and they change things around. They improve. They actually show me, Antonio, I went through, and because people ask me for, information about how to start a business all the time. And I always refer them to my interview page. I'm like, hey, I've interviewed with 100 different people. There's literally 100 hours of solid information here that if you go through and you listen through a lot of this, you can ask me better questions and we may set up a time. And I've only had a handful of people that ever actually go through and listen to some of my interviews and then follow up with me. And they're persistent. And they say, Antonio, I went through and listened to 20 of your interviews. I loved it when you talk about this, 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 and this. My questions would specifically be this. I will not take up more than 20 minutes of your time. Can we set up that time? Yes, because they put in the time. They put in the effort, and they realized it wasn't about me not liking them, me not having really – it was about them needing to be at the point where I can talk to them almost as a peer, almost where they can ask me the right questions. So I would say be persistent. Maybe look back on an opportunity that someone that said no to you 6 months ago, a year ago. Look at how much you've gotten better, how much you've evolved. And if you haven't, make sure to change and to improve yourself and to try it again. Because I know I have I just really value that persistent person that never gives up.
They say genius is persistence in disguise. It's so true. success is just persistence in disguise, you know. So it's follow through, execute, don't give up after the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, 10th shot. You know, if you listen to episode 49 with Doug Muir, this guy is a uber successful entrepreneur. And I think he went to something like 75 investors before he finally got investment. And then the rest is history. I mean, the guy just crushed it after that. So how many times can you take a no? Can someone say no to you and you're going to get back up every time? You know, so most people, it's not that many. So success is persistence in disguise. Antonio, favorite book, resource, something you can share?
Yeah, I'm going to recommend The 50th Law. I've just been loving this. I've got the physical copy. I've got the audiobook copy over at Audible, and I just love it. I've listened to it probably two and a half, maybe 3 times. And what I love about it is it's a non-traditional approach. He takes 50 Cent, and he'd written another book called The 48th. I think it's The 48th Law, or The 48 Laws, or something like that.
Yeah,
but
48 Laws of Success or Power. Yeah.
Yeah, but The 50th Law is just great because I love hearing a perspective that I'm wondering, what can I really learn from this guy? And then you come out of this with a deep respect for an entrepreneur who just had a very different background and upbringing, but has still made it and been successful.
You're the second person that's recommended that in just the last couple episodes. So that's getting added to my listening or reading list. I'm actually listening to Obstacle is the Way right now, which is a great book. But that's going to be the next one I download on Audible. Cool. Love it. Yeah. All right, Antonio, what advice, if you could sit down with your 20-year-old self, if you could sit down at a table looking eye to eye with yourself when you're 20 years old, what kind of advice would you offer?
I would have been, throw it out there. I would have been, take more chances, go out there and just tell people how you feel about them. It was something, I think I was very much an introvert and I was afraid to say things. And, I'm a little bit personal, but, you just had certain people that, from the girl that you had the crush on, you never said anything to friends that are dead. And, you never really you never told them, you were just too tough to tell them how much they meant to you and that they were a great person.
Man, that's great advice. Love it. Antonio, tell the listener where they can follow you, find you, get more of your information, more tips, etc.
If you just type in Antonio Centeno or Real Men, Real Style, you will find me all over the web. So whatever you prefer, I've probably got a channel. But if you want to contact me, my contact form at Real Men, Real Style is the best way to reach me.
Cool. And tell us a little bit more real quick about StyleCon.
Yeah, StyleCon is, we thought about rebranding the actual name of it because it's not so much about style. And that's actually a small aspect of it. It's more about men becoming the best men that they can be, their better selves. And I basically bring together guys, not just from the style industry, but we got like Eric over at Beard Brand. He was on Shark Tank. we've just got tons of great speakers. Ryan, Ryan
Mickler, who was on, was on the show a while back. Yeah.
Yep, and he comes in and he just delivers the goods on what it means to be a man and and how to be a leader and things like that. That's what we bring a lot of. We'll probably have 300 amazing men at this conference, and we obviously we allow women and stuff, but it is geared towards men. It's geared towards you being able to let loose, talk with people that are just a few steps ahead of you, or in some cases many steps ahead of you, but are very just open to sharing their experience. Because there's nothing like meeting people in person and seeing that they're just like you, and that you have the ability to be as successful as they are.
Early February in Atlanta. I'll have the link to StyleCon in the action plan from this episode, jimharshawjr.com/action. Antonio, thank you so much for making time to come on the show.
Jim, thank you for having me.
And until next time, take the time to get clear on your goals and embrace failure as a stepping stone on your path to success.